I came across this video and thought it would be a good example for us to start with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like he's being attacked by an incubus or succubus spirit. And unfortunately, even after everything he experienced in that room, he still insists on taking the Wiccan and sage approach.
A friend was recently in Austin, Texas. She came back with a couple things for me. But the most important thing that I wanted to share with you is this gigantic bundle of rosemary. Rosemary, I don't know if anybody's aware or not, but rosemary is good for purification, but most importantly for exorcism and for banishing negativity and spirits and things of that nature. My question to you is this. What exactly is an exorcism by witches' terms? I've always considered it to be something more or less along the lines of banishing negative spirits, for example. Exorcism, driving negative spirits out of people, things of that nature. But I wanted to get y'all's viewpoint on that because I don't know if y'all remember or not, but I did. If you sit out on my balcony, I have a balcony behind me over here. If you sit on my balcony, you can see somebody walking past the windows back and forth, like they're waiting for something. Like they're waiting for me, for example, to come back in. And I never once figured he would have been a bad entity. However, some things have gotten me to question. For example, I constantly hear him speaking to me. I hear his voice all the time in this room. And I can't understand it, but I hear him talking to me. I feel him over me when I'm sleeping. Not necessarily bad, but incredibly creepy, and I would like it to stop. But he walks around this room, and there's been times that you hear people completely walk out of this room, down the stairs, down to the bottom room, and then there's nobody there. And it's him doing this. I don't understand his purpose for being here, and I really haven't looked too much into it. But the rosemary had me wondering, how would somebody actually go about clearing a home? Now, I was just using this as a particular example. I have the feeling that he may be a bad entity because my roommate once had lived up here a while back, a long time ago, and he was actually, and I'm not joking when I say this, he was actually fondled by a spirit. And he could have sworn he felt somebody touch him in an inappropriate area. So, with that in mind, I have to keep this, in thought because they're still here. I know there's at least one man here. I don't know if it's him, but it was just, I'm using this as an example. But how does one go about clearing it in a Wiccan perspective? Like, you have the traditional Catholic system that goes through with the holy water and the Bible, probably saying the Lord's Prayer. I have no idea, really. But how would a Wiccan traditionally go about this? I would really like to see how people would do this. Probably, perhaps sage, smudge stick sage. My fan, of course, wafted. But generally, what type of ritual would somebody do to clear a house?
And this actually reminds me of one particular clip of Father Lampert.
I had a young man one time who told me that my girlfriend was possessed and I did what I was supposed to do to get rid of it, the demon, but it didn't work. I said, well, what were you supposed to do? He said, well, I went down to the local New Age bookstore and I bought an exorcism kit. And he goes, I've been burning sage in the house because I am told that demons hate the smell of sage and that would make them flee. Kind of based on the book of Tobit and the demon Asmodeus, where they're burning, something and the smell is going to make the demon leave. And I said to him, now, are you listening to what you're saying? I go, your faith is in sage, where your faith needs to be in Christ. You think of the holy water, it points to our baptism into Christ, whereby we have put on Christ. You think of the crucifix. The moment the devil believes that he has won, Jesus is dying on the cross, the moment of his perceived victory is actually the moment of his defeat. Shows the demon the crucifix. He's basically saying, you have been defeated before, you will be defeated again. Do not resist the power and the authority of Christ. You look at the world of the occult, whether it's going to see a psychic or a medium, the use of pendulums and crystals, magic and casting spells, sorcery, all of that type of thing. That's all contrary to our Catholic identity. There is a power behind the world of the occult, but the power behind it is the devil himself. And so he uses these tricks, if you will, to lead people into a world of deception. Many of us don't realize that we're caught up in a superstitious world. Whether people are reading their horoscopes, they're knocking on wood, they have the rabbit's foot, the four-leaf clover, whatever it might be. And again, many people may look at this and say, it's all just kind of harmless fun. But again, are we really putting too much credence in those things rather than in our own relationship with God? And whenever I go around and if I'm invited to speak at a parish or whatnot, I usually tell people, rather than critiquing a lot of other things, I just really challenge people to root out of their lives anything that is not a part of our Christian faith. The Catholic Church has a great treasure trove of wonderful spiritual gifts. We don't have to be turning to the world of the occult as if somehow there's something deficient in what the church is providing. Now, even with that said, I've seen a growing trend in recent years because faith is in decline. Many people view the exorcist as a magician, that somehow I have a bag of tricks and I can use my cross, the crucifix, holy water, and I can make the demons go away. I've had many people even tell me, Father, just make the demons go away, but I want nothing to do with God. Because again, Jesus is not a bystander, he's the main actor in helping one be delivered from the attacks of the evil one. So just helping people realize that faith is at the core of helping people who are dealing with the extraordinary demonic activity. Because I would even suggest that casting the devil out is the easy thing to do. The harder thing is to convince the person to invite God in.
I'm not sure how many videos I've already released on the dangers of witchcraft, but it's an area I plan to keep focusing on to raise awareness and reach people who are still involved in these practices. Some of you might find this one repetitive, but I hope you understand the decision I'm making. And I'm glad that so many of you who were once involved in these dark, evil practices are now actively speaking out and warning others about the dangers as well. And I shared this with you in the community post recently. Let's listen to it for a moment, and we'll use what she said as the main points we'll cover in this video.
I don't want to wait for God to answer my prayers. That's why I'm a witch. It's a way for me to affect change in my life, but isn't necessarily like a belief in a higher power that I am devoted to, that I pray to. I have spirit contact. There are spirits that I work with. I invited all of my helping spirits and ancestors and deities and said, whoever wants to be here during this interview to make sure I'm saying the right things, let me know and I'll put you in the room. And we've got a couple here who are represented in various symbolic ways throughout the room.
In the book, an exorcist explains the demonic, and I quote, "An exorcist related to me the case of a witch who remained in agony on her deathbed for many hours, and who, amid great pains and sufferings, was unable to die. By chance, the exorcist had found himself at the hospital where the witch was languishing and did an exorcism on her, and after a while she expired, reconciled with God, we hope."
All of the religious witchcraft traditions have... Oh God. Hey girl, what's up? I told you guys about the jawbone, and here she is jumping out at me. Okay, we'll put you somewhere more stable. How's that?
She didn't like that.
No, she didn't. Well, because she's the primary spirit that I work with, and she's like, no, it is religious because I'm here. It's like a familial relationship. It really depends. Sometimes it's a working relationship with a deity that I'll have. I'll contact them and say, I need X, Y, and Z done. Here's what you'll get. How do you feel about it? And we'll work out some kind of a deal. Or it's in the case of, I've got tattoos for certain deities that I work with. That's like a lifelong relationship, and that's as meaningful to me as members of my family.
Father Gabriel Morth, who was the famous exorcist of Rome, said, all witches and all curses, their power ultimately comes from demons. And it's true. Witches don't like it when I say that, but it's true. You're making, when you cast a spell or curse, you're asking for something, right? You might be asking for what seems like good things. I want a job, I want a marriage, I want world peace, whatever. But you're sort of making a contract with some sort of nameless power. And what the great exorcist would say is, you're making a contract with Satan, whether you know it or not.
Witchcraft is the doing of magic. So yeah, it's the practical application of it. When I talk about magic and witchcraft, what I'm talking about is like, I will use like candles and oils and things, or I will anoint my phone to get a Tinder date. I will like make like a love attraction oil, and then I'll like anoint my phone with it and I'll swipe. And we'll see who comes through. It couldn't be evil in as much as like praying for love couldn't be evil, and praying for money couldn't be evil. It's just a means to an end, and a very practical one.
There's no such thing as good witchcraft because you're making a contract with Satan, whether you intend it or not. And it's an ugly stuff. And it's going to be bad in the future. We're getting a bunch of them now, but wait 10 years from now when Witch Talk, for example, the subset of TikTok for witches, has over 40 billion views. So there are a lot of people practicing witchcraft, and we're going to get them, and they're going to have demons, and they're going to be crying for help, and we'll do our best, but we don't have enough holy water for 41 billion views, So I think it's going to be a real problem. So that's why I'm so concerned what the young people are learning today. They're saying, I'm going to be a good witch like Harry Potter. No.
Devil worshipping occurs occasionally, but again, there's about as many deities to pick from as there are like stars in the sky. So some people will choose to worship like the Christian devil and work with that. Satanic Temple, a lot of them are good friends of mine. But there's just as many people who do other things. When I think of what witchcraft means to me, it does stem from this like autonomous female, kind of like a warrior who just lives by her own means, who takes care of herself by any means necessary and doesn't ask anyone for permission.
A lot of musicians will say, I can't be famous unless I make a contract with Satan, which is, I had a guy who was into this stuff, and before he converted, he said, if you make a contract with Satan, he said, in the end, before you die, you'll be sorry you did. And if you think Satan's going to give you what you want, he'll jerk you around a little bit. Satan doesn't want you to be happy. He wants you to be miserable. He'll make you miserable in this life and in the next. He might give you just a little bit, just to string you along, but it won't make you happy. And one woman said to me, she was into witchcraft for quite some time, and she said, I don't understand why this is so bad. He said, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't commit adultery or anything. Why is this so bad? Why is witchcraft bad? Why is divination bad? Mediums, tarot cards, Ouija boards, all that kind of stuff. Why is it bad? Because you're violating the first commandment. It's an offense against God. You're not honoring the Lord. The Christian says, Lord, the Our Father, thy will be done. That's our prayer. Lord, I would like to have a good job. I would like to have a spouse or whatever. But in the end, thy will be done. God's in charge, and we serve the Lord with joy and peace. In witchcraft, you say, no, my will be done. Here's what I want, and I don't care what God thinks. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a spell. I'm going to throw a curse. And even if you think it's a good thing, sometimes people say, well, I'm a good witch. There are no good witches. There's no good witchcraft. And that's the danger of all this stuff with Harry Potter, whatever. I mean, the Harry Potter movies are kind of entertaining, but it gives people the idea that you can be a good witch. And the answer is no, you can't.
And speaking of the 40 billion views on the Witch Talk hashtag on TikTok, I'd also like to add that there are a lot of channels out there whose main content is all about engaging with demons. Things like using spirit boards to see what happens. And their subscribers and viewers will be giving suggestions for future videos, things to ask, things to try, and so much more.
I didn't sway. I don't know. I'm tempted to run out the garden. I really can't do anything with that anyway. Looking at the noise is going on. Alright, that's pretty much garden time. The power of Christ compels ye. I feel like a fool. Oh God. Yeah, that's kind of... I'm using my Ouija board to protect myself. The power of Christ compels ye.
And I remember an interview Father Martins did on a radio show 2 years ago. And during that interview, he spoke about haunted houses and said it's always because the demon has legal rights to be there in the first place. Try and listen to this for a moment. It's a little bit long, but I'm sure you'll find this one useful. And if you like to listen to the whole thing, as always, there's a link in the description box below.
I was assigned at a parish that had the resident diocesan exorcists residing there, and they were so busy with cases, with possession cases, that when something less than possession came in, like a house infestation where the demonic is present in a house and the things are moving by themselves. There's voices, there's violence, like poltergeist phenomena, let's call it. They sent me to go deal with it. Now, I had no training at the time, and I would never advise this to be the case, to send somebody into a situation with the devil without training, because it's very easy to get yourself hurt, let's say. But I went in, and I had this innate, there was just an innate awareness that if the devil is present in a place, then he has been given the rights to be there, that the devil doesn't just show up because he chooses to, or yesterday everything was fine in my house, today it's not, and the cause or the reason for that is just completely unknown. The stars were aligned in a certain configuration, or the price of bananas hit a certain level, and boom, that brings me to the devil. So that I knew that there had to be a door opened to him, and he was let in. And so that knowledge is what guided me to lead people through reforming their lives or undoing whatever decisions that they had done that brought evil into a relationship with them. What I did was I grabbed holy water, and I grabbed a book containing the prayers of the exorcism of a place. They didn't give them to me, but I just thought, okay, what do I need? So I went and obtained what I needed to do that. And I arrived at the place, and I knew immediately when so it was a woman who asked me to come and deliver her plates from evil. The home was not her own. It was her uncle's home. And he, at the time, was deployed overseas. And as she's her own home had burned to the ground. And so he had, because he wasn't around living in his place, he just said to his niece, come use my place, it's yours. I won't be back home for another couple of years or so. And by that time, presumably she'd be back on her feet. But as soon as I showed up at her house and she opened the door, I remember taking a step inside, and the ceiling fan started to spin. So it went from a dead stop position, but it started to spin not like a ceiling fan would. It started to spin at 10 million RPMs. I mean, spinning so quickly that every object in the room that wasn't weighed down started to blow around, move, to fall to the floor, because the sheer amount of wind that was created in the room by this fan, that the propellers were spinning so quickly, the fan blades were spinning so quickly that it was just a blur. It almost looked like nothing was there. So, and then all of a sudden, it stopped on a dime, like instant stop. And then it started spinning backwards at the same speed. And then it stopped and then just started to spin slowly, like at maybe 2 rotations per minute, and then quickly again. So, okay, the devil's here. He's obviously not shy about his presence here. So I just went to the counter in the kitchen. I started to make holy water. I had her go fill a bowl with water from the tap, and I just set about doing the prayers. When I was done those prayers, or towards the end, then I heard the chiming of a music box. And this was the phenomena that for her was the most unnerving. There was a music box in her uncle's bedroom sitting on his dresser, and it would go off at random times each and every day. And the thing that was unnerving is it's not electrical, so it's not plugged into a wall, and nobody's winding it. So how is this thing getting its power? She had removed the turnkey from it, the winding key. She thought if this thing is somehow winding itself, or something is somehow managing to wind it, well, if I remove the key, then it would stop chiming. But it didn't stop chiming, it just kept going. She tried to remove the thing from the home, but it was as if it was bolted down to the dresser. She couldn't budge it. So I finished making the holy water, said the prayers of exorcism, started in one corner of the ground floor. I just started blessing every room. Making my way upstairs, I blessed every room. leaving her uncle's bedroom to the last one, and finally I had arrived there. So I could see the music box sitting on the dresser, and it was chiming away. And so what I did was I put my hands on it and picked it up. As soon as my hands touched it, it stopped chiming. And I picked it up with no problem. And I could see the keyhole in the side. It looked like, I don't know, like a typical music box from the outside. It's something that you could see in any kind of store that might sell something like that. But I opened it up, and Bill, there was nothing inside this box. There were no mechanical parts. There was no evidence that there ever even had any. It was an empty, plain wooden box with no parts inside it whatsoever. I could see the hole for the key, but the key went into nothing. I put the thing back down, I blessed it with holy water, and then it never chimed again. That was I'm not going to say it's the last I ever saw that woman. That for her was a powerful faith experience. She became very involved in the church after that, but there was no diabolical phenomena in the house any longer.
And that is all for the video this time, and I hope all of you have learned so much from this one. And if you have any feedback or suggestion, please feel free to share them in the comments below. And until the next one, thanks again for your support, thanks for being here, and may God bless you.
But it legit sounds like there's somebody upstairs. I will swing on a ghost, or if it's a person, I don't care. Who's up there? Oh my god, they're like at the top of the stairs. Come down these stairs and I will swing on you, I promise.
For the purpose of our understanding, poor souls in purgatory are holy souls, okay? So because they're holy souls, they are destined already to go to heaven, but it is delayed because of their purification, the purification that they need to undergo, so that their souls will be, they would really desire God. Because according to the Beatitudes, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. So that is the number one thing there. That's the number one principle to understand things. So poor souls in purgatory are holy souls. That's why we call them holy souls in purgatory. And we consider them poor souls only in the aspect that they are not yet enjoying beatitude, the beatific vision of seeing God. And therefore, they would not haunt. They will never haunt. They will never scare you. They will come to one who is able to help them. So they will not just come to anyone randomly because that person cannot help them. It must be someone that can immediately recognize their need for prayers, for Holy Mass, for penance. So that's why they appear to saints, first and foremost, because the saints' love for God, even while on earth, transcends in many ways fear. So when you say you fear, you see an apparition, you see a ghost, and what you experience internally is terror. You're really afraid for your life. Then then the possibility that that is not a poor soul in purgatory, but a demon in the guise of a poor soul is plausible. Okay, so now the next question. So having set that aside, that you know now what is in front of you is not from God, then you ask the question, why do they appear? Why do they manifest themselves? Is it because they want to elicit fear? That's number one. Of course, that's number one. Because once you are terrified, fearful, then your number one desire is to be able to get out of there, to save yourself. And what would you do in order to save yourself? So sometimes there would be people who would eventually talk to the spirit and succumb to it. when it asks, bring me this, do this, do that. So you succumb to keep you in peace. Or they will tell you, we will kill you, or we will kill your family, etc. Then you get terrified. And what will you do? Well, in the Philippines, for example, when that appears, people would often go to occult practitioners, shamans, witch doctors, and ask what they need to do. And one of those things would be to offer something. And they will say, oh, they manifested themselves because you cut a tree, because you did this, you did that, and therefore you need to offer a peace offering. And therefore, once you offer a peace offering, then that is already a form of idolatry, because you do not now go to God, but you try to fix things yourself. So now you enter into a form of relationship with that spirit and a bondage of sorts. So the manifestation of the spirits, of evil spirits in our homes is a sign that the place is infested. The question that probably you will add is that how did it all start? How did it? Well, there are many things. In our experience here in the Exorcist in the Philippines, homes are already basically infested. Basically infested from the very beginning, because idolatrous and pagan practices and offerings were done to the house prior to occupancy. For example, somebody offers, either the contractor or the workers, the carpenters, or even the owners themselves would already, while building the house, do some kind of occult ritual, an offering to the spirits, so that they will be, the things would push through. So that is one. So that is very rampant here in the Philippines. And I'm sure in many parts of Southeast Asia and other parts of Asia, this is also happening. We have encountered this when we went to Cambodia, for example, where sisters were forced to do offerings because the workers would not continue working on their convent until an offering is made. So you already have that instance of an idolatrous practice even before you start living in the place. So the place is already consecrated and, in a sense, already infested. Then you have someone moving in, the owners of the place or the renters of the place, and they too would add the load of the spirits, perhaps because they themselves have spirits in them, or that they brought with them amulets or good luck charms that they got somewhere, and therefore you add spirit after spirit in the place until what exorcists call an overload. You reach a certain level of load that the spirits can already manifest themselves. Or the spirits are already there, they're quiet for a time. And this we have seen. For example, of a home where they have this kind of mounds, this earth mounds, where actually what's inside are either termite mounds, termite mounds inside your property or inside your house. In the Philippines, we call this punso, Punso, which are actually in nature just termite mounds. But people believe that there are spirits that dwell there. So for them, you are not to disturb this punso for fear that the spirits will retaliate, the elementals will retaliate. So what they do is that they offer things there. And some people believe that these are good luck. If you have this inside your house, they will provide good luck. So they build things for the spirits there. A home, thinking that you can build a small house for the spirits so that they will dwell there and keep you safe or keep you in good terms with them. So they provide you with health, wealth, luck. Then, so your house is quiet as long as you continue to offer things for them, food, clothes, whatever. Then someone that is a threat to them will come in. Example, a priest would come, and the priest would be blessing the house, because they asked the house to be blessed, or somebody got sick in the house, and they invited the priest because nothing can cure the person. So they went to the priest and asked the priest if he could bless the person. Then you have what we call retaliation. The spirits now will start to manifest, either make things move in the house or bring in bad luck to the house. So you have that manifestation. They are triggered. There is a triggering event that caused the manifestation of the spirits, either because they were threatened by the presence of someone that will expel them, or that you already have a load, a spirit load, as it were, quotation marks, enough to cause harm on the people living there by possessing them. So you already have that kind of situation.